Okay. Sorry, I had a technical glitch. We had to start over here. But my name is Kari, and we are down to our final 2 weeks of this series of live interviews that I've been doing with special guests, where they have been coming on here and sharing their stories of how they have burned everything to the ground to start over again. I don't know about you, but I have been loving this. Thanks for letting me know my video is working now. I have been loving this, getting to hear everybody's stories and the journeys that they've been on, the challenges they've faced. We've heard people from so many different backgrounds and have gone on, like, everybody's story is so different, and yet we can all find some way to connect with each other. And it's just been a phenomenal experience. I hope you've been enjoying this as much as I have. A word of caution for folks today listening, trigger warning perhaps. My guest today is going to be talking about life after domestic violence. And in my opinion, if there is one person who is experiencing domestic violence, then that is too many people. But unfortunately, this is a common, I'm waiting for my guest to get on here, occurrence, not just in the United States, I think, but worldwide, where we have people being abused by the people who are supposed to love them the most, right? It's our partners, it's our family members, friends, really just anybody. There we go. We've got our guest has joined here. Let me see if I can get you on. Let's see here.
Did I get it? Just gonna wait. There we go. Okay. Hi there. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining.
No problem.
I just finished my introduction, so will you go ahead and introduce yourself to the camera, to the crowd?
Yeah. Hang on just a second. My headphones just became unplugged.
Okay. I was expecting you to be in a truck.
Almost there. Hi, my name is Laura Mosley. I am a mother of 3, and I have survived 23 plus years of sexual and domestic abuse.
Wow.
And married to one person. And we had 3 children through all of that. And wow. I am now, I work for a social services organization, and I'm now a certified domestic violence advocate as well. So, and I try to advocate through a blog and, interviews like this and in person. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate the work that you do. I mean, honestly, as somebody who's been through it, I know how hard it can be to get out of those situations. So, anything that we can do to share our stories, reach out, advocate for others, letting people know that there is help out there. There are people all over the place who are going to be there to support you. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. Congratulations on getting yourself out of that situation, though. I know how hard that can be. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely is. And I think abusers like to keep their victims stuck by, not letting them know resources, saying, oh, you'll never get along without me. And it's all based in control and fear. And
absolutely. Yep.
Unfortunately, eventually we come to self-realization, but a lot of people not in time to save their own lives, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, and just a note too for people who have not experienced this, I just want to say that domestic violence isn't always just about physical abuse either, and it's not as black and white as people think it is. It's not as easy to walk away. Physical abuse is just one of the tools that they use to control, exactly, as you said. So I want to give you a chance here to kind of share your story with people, to talk about your journey a little bit, so other people tuning in can either relate or find some way to say, okay, good, there's hope here. We're here to inspire hope. So can you just tell us, I guess, in the moments or in the time before you actually made that change and were able to get out of that, where were you mentally? What was going on with you, and how were you feeling about life at that time when you were just...
Well, it's funny. I was reflecting on this the other day. I was at home. I don't remember if I was at home sick myself or at home sick with a child, but I watched this documentary. Well, it was on Oprah Winfrey. It was like an expose about bride burning, and that was domestic abuse. And they explained briefly, you know, what abuse was. And I'm like, I'm not being abused. That's horrible. That's abuse. I was totally being abused. And it's just, you know, and when you step back years later, you go, why did I not see that? But I guess I was so blown away by the whole bride burning thing that was going on in India that, you know, that was like, oh, my situation's like way better. There's no way that's abuse. And, you know, it doesn't have to be that extreme to be abused. It can be verbal. It can be mental. It can be, you know, not even physical, financial, spiritual,
Yep.
Things that you wouldn't even think were abuse. And most people don't still, you know. So we started off, I met him when I was 18, he was 20. We found out we were pregnant. We got married at 19 and 21. Things were going okay, but then we had to move in with his mother because young people and, you know, unplanned pregnancy, it's usually, you know, have to save money and expenses and all of that. So once we got out on our own, things were okay until, I mean, basically our oldest was 18 months old. He decided he was going somewhere, and I made a smart alecky comment about it. He grabbed my shirt, which included part of my breast, and shoved me up against the wall and told me I wasn't going to talk to him like that. So, and you know, in the grand scheme of things, that was the first one I can actually remember, because most of the time when you are newly married or newly in a relationship and you're young like that, you just go, oh, we're just young and dumb and in love, and stuff happens, differences of opinion, not a big deal. And you keep pushing that off until you have this huge pile of things that you're like, there's starting to be a history here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he and I were on again, off again. My last incident in 2017 actually was the fifth time I got away from him, and I knew if I went back, he'd kill me.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and I want to just point out something that I heard you say here about how we kind of brush it off and we excuse this, but I think, you know, that comes from what we hear, right, on a daily basis. We see it in movies, we see it on TV and the news. It's just kind of all around us that this is normal, that this is what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to have these kind of squabbles, and you just need to fight through these sorts of things. And so what influence do you think was for you that was kind of playing a role in that conversation you were having with yourself about what was going on?
You know, I was raised that, you know, married couples, people in relationship work things out. And I, you know, in hindsight, always noticed I was the one rising to the challenge. You know, okay, I'm owning my part. He never would own his, and it was either get along or, you know, worry about how I was going to raise my 3 children by myself on one income. You know, what kind of a circus would be if I left. And I knew there would be, because I'd done it a few times. So, I mean, I had to weigh all of that, but it was mainly just fear, the fear of the unknown. We don't know. Well, yes, but it's not written, and it could be great. Yeah. But it'll be without violence. So people, I don't think they can see past that part, the without violence part.
Yeah. So what was it ultimately that got you over that fear, where you were able to take the final step? And
well, I mean, you know, I've always worked, you know, 2 and 3 jobs. He's worked, but, you know, he liked to keep his money separate, you know, things like that. So what got me over that fear was the day before the final incident, he shot at me, which had never happened before. And if you know, it's one thing when you go to a gun range and you have the earmuffs on and you shoot a gun, you don't realize how loud it is until it goes off while it's being pointed near you. That scared me like nothing else, because now there's even though he threatened that before about, you know, killing me or something that I cared about, the fact that he kind of carried out something that could really facilitate that really, really did me in. to the point where I'm like, if I stay here, he's going to kill me.
Right.
And he'd already worked up to that point. I mean, he had beaten animals of mine. I had animals go missing. I don't know if he killed them or if he just took them somewhere, but I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if that's a progression that he was working up to,
Sure.
See what that was like if he executed that on a human being.
Yeah.
I
So,
wasn't willing to stay and find that out.
right. Yeah. So, I know this is kind of a difficult conversation to have, but would you feel okay with talking to us a little bit about, after you removed yourself from that situation, what was going on with you at that point? Like, what kind of thoughts were you having once you were out of there? What kind of challenges did you face in that immediate aftermath?
The challenges that I faced was keeping my family safe. I mean, obviously I was scared for myself, but my fear was he was going to get to me and make me pay, or get to one of my children and take them away, which my oldest two were adults at that point. My youngest one was 10, and some of these things he did in front of the 10-year-old, like beat me to almost unconscious. So my fear was he was going to steal my youngest one and take him, because that would probably have done me in personally, as opposed to being, at least, and I hate to say it, I don't want it to sound negative or bad, but it's going to. If he had shot me, it would be a done thing. If he took my child away from me, that would have been torture. So I had to make sure that I kept us safe from him. So getting a protective order is something that was a major thing. And what a lot of people go, oh, I'm not doing that, that's just a piece of paper, they'll walk right through it. And what people don't realize is they have to make a trail and show the proof in order to get them put away. And of course, the judge asked me if I feared for my life. I had to tell that man in front of my abuser, yes, Your Honor, I fear for my life and the life of my children. And that was one of the hardest things I had to do. But also, I've had people going, oh, well, it's good that you got that. You probably won't ever have to use it, but it's good that you got that. No, he tested absolutely every boundary, being a narcissist, that he could possibly test, like being at the grocery store at the same time and not turning around and leaving the premises, but going up and down the aisle and meeting me, to the point where I had an anxiety attack. I abandoned my cart and had to go home and curl up in a fetal position in my bathroom. And then my then 19-year-old daughter telling me, Mom, you got to call the police. You have to call the police.
Yeah.
So, and press the issue.
Yeah, and I just want to point out here, too, what I'm hearing is, there are challenges when we are trying to take back control of our lives and put ourselves back in that situation where we are safe. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have challenges, and you're going to, oh, okay, well, it's on me to put the proof and fill out the paperwork and do all of this. And those are things that people might say, well, that's too much effort. Like you just said, right? That's such a pain in the ass that I have to do that. But ultimately, you've got to prioritize your safety, right? And over those kind of, they're inconveniences, and it's unfortunate the way that we're set up right now societally to have to do that. But well, but again, that's why. So what helped you kind of keep yourself on track? And I heard you say your daughter was saying, Mom, you've got to. So I heard that you at least had her in your corner. So what else helped you on this path?
Honestly, when a victim decides to leave to become a survivor, they have to follow through with it. Failure is not an option. So I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head. Nothing worthwhile is easy. Okay, so if you want a great job, you go to college, you put the work in. Same thing with getting away from your abuser, because they are going to do whatever they can do to rope you back in or drive you absolutely insane. And I'm too stubborn. Nobody's going to be the boss of me except for me. And I was like, nope, I'm still in there. I'm still boss. He doesn't get to dictate that.
Yep.
I've come more than halfway in order to, share children with him, share a life with him. And I can't do it anymore
Mm-hmm.
at the expense of this person that was supposed to love me so much does not show that he's loving me. I have to
Absolutely.
love myself at that point because
Yeah, and I love what I heard you say though, that when you choose to go from victim to survivor, because that is a mentality in itself, right?
right, exactly. You have to be all in. I mean, there's days when you're like, I can't do this. I'm going to give up. You can say that all you want. You can pace the floor and stuff, and then you got to pep talk yourself and go, girl, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna do this. You
Yep.
have to. You have three little individuals that are counting
Yep.
on you, not
Yep.
just yourself. But that is so hard because there's so many days of crying and not wanting to get out of
Yep.
bed and just things are so hard and they make it hard. But nothing. Again, my dad. Nothing worthwhile is easy.
Yep.
So this peace that I have right now is so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh,
it's and safety. It's priceless.
yeah. I'm gonna. Nothing worthwhile is
It's
easy. I'm
easy.
gonna write that
Yeah,
down.
his name is Jim Mosley. That's his
Quote from Jim Mosley. Got it.
my dad. So it's like, oh, so and then there's days where of course and on the other hand, my mom's like, God won't give you more than you can handle, and I'm thinking, wow, God must think I'm a real badass because I have all of this stuff that I have to do in order to survive, but you survive it. Because you don't stop. You keep going. Whether you go, what, that direction doesn't. I'm going to go this direction.
Yep.
And it's just it's something that you have to. Yeah, it's a mindset that you have to adopt.
Yep.
And when you're done. When you're done. You think, oh, I'm done, and then you cave and go back, and then you get even madder, and then you leave and you cave and you go back, and you get to a point. And I had no idea when somebody told me, when you're done, you're done. She wasn't kidding. It's like a light appeared from heaven.
Yep.
I don't know, something. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
I've been there, right? You just have that moment where you're like, hey, stupid brain, thanks for catching up, I've been waiting for you.
Yeah. So, you're constantly refereeing between your brain and your heart, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy down here, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm listening to this one because I can't do it anymore. I am powerless over that.
Yeah, and I love what you said, too, about how this journey is not just a straight line out of there, too. It's an up and down. It's a back and forth. You're going to have bad days where you are crying on the floor, in the tub, wherever. But you kind of power through it. And you said this, too, where there are going to be moments where you are in straight survival mode. So where would you say you are now in your journey?
I'm at a place where I'm okay. I'm kind of rediscovering myself, which is great. I've reclaimed my maiden last name officially all the way across the board, and I'm trying to advocate and help others because I don't want others to be stuck in this fear, this repetition of fear, and like you're running in place, like on a treadmill, because I had help. I want to extend that help to others just because you need it. You have to take and most of us that are in survival mode that are victims are like, oh, I'm good, I'm okay, it's fine. Yeah. That's the big statement. It's fine. But we have to have help. So.
Yeah, we really do. We're not meant to go through this life entirely on our own. And when we get into that survivor mode, we think that we have to be able to handle it all on our own.
Right.
But I want to say, too, that it is such a powerful move to change your name. It's such a power move, it really is to reclaim. I changed mine last year to say this is my name and this is who I'm going to be. And I think it's such a power move. I love that you did that, too. But, yeah, this idea of asking for help. So how did you did you reach out to people or were people there? How did you kind of segue into that?
The cool thing is when I was at court the very next day, I met the local advocate, and she introduced herself and she said, I'm here to help you. Whatever you need, I'm here to help you. And I didn't ask for it. I'm like, I think I'm okay. And she goes, no, you need me. You need me. You need my help. And so she was like, you need me. And if you need anything, and I mean anything, here's my number. And she wasn't kidding. She knew things that I had no way of knowing because I was kept in the dark. And I didn't need to know it until that point. And, so it was great that way, just because I didn't know I needed that help at that time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what kept me stuck, at, in that relationship for 20 something years.
Right.
So, and it's amazing, and it's okay to need help. Everybody needs help from time to time. It is not a weakness. It's a strength when you go, you know what, I can't do this. I need help. And, you accept it, and you make sure that everybody has what they need, and you keep going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to circle back to what you said in the beginning too, you were listening to a TV show or something that ultimately got you thinking, wait a minute. So, right, it's talking to people, and it is reaching out, and it's having conversations is what's going to help us kind of readjust our reality a little bit, because we do get stuck in this very tunnel vision kind of life sometimes. So just reaching out to people and having conversations is
and those are difficult conversations to have.
Oh,
but
for
they
sure.
need to happen.
For sure. Yeah. So what would I see? I know you had some plans tonight. What would you say to people who might be in a similar situation where you found yourself in, or what kind of words do you want to leave them with?
The words that I'd want to leave them with is make sure that you're safe at all times. Just because somebody says, oh, you should leave, or, I wouldn't be in that situation, don't measure that by them. You have to do what's good for you and your situation. And I always advocate safety first. Sometimes you can't just immediately leave. You have to make a plan, or you have to, do things in a roundabout way. Just make sure you're safe first. And there's lots of resources out there. There's advocacy groups and stuff that can definitely help and can keep things private and very secret, so you can leave.
Absolutely. I am 100% on board with you with keeping yourself safe. What works for others might not work for you, so you've got to pay attention to your situation, and safety first, always, always, always. Yeah, so I know that your DV Walking Wounded is your username here. I want to give you a chance to use my platform however you want to get your message out, to let people know who they can go to reach out to you. Just, this is your chance to kind of to take the floor.
Gotcha. And I did name my my advocacy group the DV Walking Wounded, because you never know what goes on behind closed doors. You never know what people are battling, and we always have to walk around with this plastered on smile saying it's fine. I can be found on Facebook by my name, Laura Mosley. I also have an inspirational group called the DV Walking Wounded, and my blog, it's dvwalkingwounded.me, which I thought was appropriate because it happened to me. And I picked that instead of .com just to be kitschy, I guess. But and it's a survivor blog. I write about, what goes through my head now that I'm on this side of it, and what, reflecting back, what I could have done differently, what I did do, and why I did it. And that maybe that seems narcissistic, but I think I've had people, reach out to me and go, that is so helpful. I've thought about that, and I had no idea what I could have done about it. My way wasn't probably always the most brilliant, but it's what I did. And
it's what you did. It worked for you, and somebody else might work for them too. So I appreciate you sharing that with me, with the world. Anybody, if there's one person out there that gets something from it, I think it's well worth it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on and talking to me, sharing your story. This is a different story than I've heard from other people. Of course, they're all unique, but this is unfortunately, it kind of runs rampant, I think. And so I think it's so important that we talk about this more often, and I appreciate you so much for coming on here, talking to me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, have fun. I think you're headed to a concert tonight, so have fun. And again, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.